We'll get started. I want to introduce who I am. I am Belinda B. Bennett. I am the NC Notary Coach and the founder of the Confident Notaries of North Carolina Facebook group. If you're here, many of you are a part of the community on Facebook. I will soon have a course, I should say an actual platform. It's similar to school, SKOOL. Toward the fall, the goal is to have that launched and available for subscriptions for memberships in that area, that you will have access to a lot of the courses that I have created, as well as some of the sessions that we're going over on Wednesday. That's going to be on that platform. So again, I'm excited about this part of my projects to actually come to light. Something I've been working on for several years. So everything that you guys have actually been able to be a part of or see, I have had several years of developing these things. So again, things are not just put together for notaries. The goal is to be very intentional when it comes to what I bring to the table to, again, help you with the value that I feel that you can utilize as a notary, as well as getting that support that you deserve. Again, our position as a public official is a big one. We have a lot of responsibilities. And in the subject that we're going to go over tonight is going to hit on quite a few pain points that you may have experienced or you may have been able to witness or hear about. And so our goal is to truly help notaries be well versed on what they should know, because of the responsibility that once you took an oath, you pretty much said what you're going to do when it comes to upholding the law, protecting and serving. So we're going to go in the depths of that. Um, Again, there's a chat. If you have any questions, please do use the Q&A session. So you see everyone, that's where everyone can just communicate their city and county and just comments. However, Q&A is specifically for questions you may have. And so during the presentation, we will again go through we'll hold off on any questions until the end. And then you'll be able to actually ask those questions, or we can go through the comments to make sure all your questions are addressed while you're here. Okay. So again, I'm looking forward to being able to have that moment of collaboration very shortly. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Again, this is about the hidden risk in your bank, why some notaries don't know their job. Our bank and credit union notaries ignoring their duties, understanding the severity of the oath of office. So when it comes to observing the problem, many bank or credit union employees are commissioned as a convenience for the employer, which again, in this case, is the bank or credit union. This can apply to the UPS store and other places where there is a stationary building you report to, and along with your duties, being a notary may be part of that description. So when it comes to lack of specialized training on the severity of the position, notaries are often surprised when asked to administer a required oath. Managers, employers often fail to support the notary's legal responsibilities because they don't know what a notary's responsibilities are thoroughly if they have never been in a class, picked up the manual to read it, to understand it more, to give their employees the support that they deserve in the workplace. Many times they have these assumptions that they have concluded that a notary should do just because it's part of their job and because the job paid for their actual class, oftentimes their supplies. And so, again, their understanding is misconstrued, and it's up to us to make sure we do our part as a notary to really understand what we need to do. I'm going over this today because this past weekend, I spoke with two different notaries in different locations of the state, and this is one of the continuous problems that is occurring. I personally have experienced this issue with my credit union. So again, this is something that needs to be addressed, and we can help other notaries just by giving them a word of encouragement of where to find the information to follow based on what the law says. So this is a critical issue, and I'll tell you why. Failure to administer a required oath is a breach of duty. Okay, that's very simple. It exposes the notary, the employer, and the signer to liability. Notarization is not just stamping a paper, it is an official state act. And so, again, you have a lot of the public who thinks, oh, you just have to stamp and sign, it's something simple. Once again, I'm guilty of thinking the same thing before I became a notary. And so, because back in before 1998, that's when I actually became a notary under Department of Social Services, I knew nothing about being a notary other than the experience of my childhood, my father going to a notary to transfer title for more than two vehicles over time. But that's all I knew is hearing the word notary and my daddy having to go to actually get this paper notarized. And again, that was not anything that was interesting at the time. I just remember those experiences. And it's now became more relevant after becoming a notary. So 98, I became a notary for the Department of Social Services. That was part of the responsibilities for my job. When it came to that being something that was important because of the patrons that we were serving and a lot of affidavits that needed to be notarized. So I saw a lot of my coworkers that were also case managers that were notaries, and they were oftentimes notarize the documents before I became commissioned. So to be able to actually see what they were doing, I was familiar with the process, but again, I did not understand the seriousness of what that position held. When I became a notary, I again was very lackadaisy. It was more of a cake. It's still part of the job. I did understand exactly what needed to be done, but I can't even recall if I actually did everything by the book because it was so long ago. But it wasn't until 2015 where my whole mindset shifted when it came to a lot more of the concerns that other notaries were bringing to my attention of what they did not understand. And I was, again, trying to understand the why. And again, our manuals have changed a lot over the years, where, again, our instructors do the best they can in the 8 hour period that they are going through the entire book as best as they possibly can to prepare you to pass the class. So passing that class is very important because it reflects the instructor. How well the instructor actually taught the class. Many good instructors will actually emphasize, what you need to pay attention to up until the point of taking the test. And if you were attentive to details, listening to what they were saying, you are here because you actually listened and you actually were able to pass. So, with all that said, there's a lot of information that's not covered in depth just because there's not enough time allowed. So, your constitutional oath, this is what we swore to when it came to actually being at the Register of Deeds, having our right hand raised, and either affirming or swearing, I, Belinda B. Bennett, do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a notary public, so help me God. So again, you have to know exactly what that oath means. Many of us, again, just go through the process of reading or them reading it out to us and us agreeing to it. But most times they will have us reading this out because it should be our words, understanding what we're reading and what we're agreeing to under oath. So I would challenge you to go back to really fine tune what all that means. Okay, so again, this is the required oath to the Constitution of the state of North Carolina. But then there's a second oath that we're also responsible for reading, and it's as a public officer. And it goes, I, Belinda B. Bennett, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of North Carolina, not and consistent with the Constitution of the United States to the best of my knowledge and ability. So help me God. So again, this is something kind of what we're used to if we have to administer an oath to a signer, but it's differently worded. Okay. So again, there's two different statutory oaths that we are sworn to, and we have to make sure we understand the seriousness of having this oath. Again, how many of you can actually tell me what type of hobby, gig, hustle requires an oath in any magnitude? Okay, I can almost bet my house on it. You cannot find that. Okay, so this is why when I hear people say, "Oh, I just needed a side gig or a hustle," you know, you can have a hustle mentality, but please don't treat being a notary public as a hustle, because it is not. It is a public official, or it's a public office for the state of North Carolina that you need to take seriously beyond a lot of other things that you've actually done in life. So again, because we are at a position of protecting other people, we really do need to look at this title of being a notary public for what it really is. Okay. Understanding the Notary Act. The Notary Act is designed to protect the public. So the key purposes are promoting, serving, and protecting the public interest, simplifying, clarifying, and modernizing the law, preventing fraud and forgery, fostering ethical conduct, enhancing interstate recognition, and integrating procedures for paper, electronic, and remote acts. So when it comes to the oath versus the affirmation, once again, this is something that I often hear notaries are not clear about, or they're just, again, needing some clarification because they're not really understanding. Well, again, everything is broken down in detail in our manual for our different notarial acts. These are two of them. So when it comes to legal effect, it's the same. The oath invokes a deity where you have to say, "So help you God," under oath with your right hand raised. Affirmation is a secular option that removes deity reference. Okay, so those are the two things that you can understand the difference of what that might mean to a person. I often reference that you have certain beliefs when it comes to groups of people that may not believe in swearing on their God. So they will affirm in these situations. And so once it comes to knowing that people have a choice of how they are going to be administered the oath, we again have to offer that to them. But again, that must be done when it's very obvious it is a sworn or affirmation statement for the Notarial Act itself, letting us know it's not an acknowledgement, it is an actual oath affirmation. So when it comes to bank notaries often failing to identify when these are required, that is truly problematic. All right. And to have a notary tell me that when they went to get their application notarized, the notary at the bank, or excuse me, their credit union, was clueless to what the oath was, the wording. They knew nothing. And that is very, very concerning when it comes to how many times have they not swore sworn oath or affirmation where it was when it was supposed to be done, where now they have opened a lot of their customers to a liability situation. If ever they go to court, this notary goes under, again, they are perjuring themselves when they also have to be sworn under oath to tell the truth of what all happened during the time that they were with a signer. So again, if they can tell them, "No, I didn't actually administer the oath," well, again, that is a law that they broke as a notary public, and then it compromises the entire document. It voids it. It's as if it never happened because of the legal implication that they did not have them under oath during the time that it was notarized. So again, there's an order of operation. When you are doing an oath, you have to do that first before someone signs the document, period. Once you now can witness them signing the document after you have administered their oath and they have affirmed or said yes when it comes to them actually saying this information is true, then we can go through notarizing the document as far as filling out the notarial certificate. But you have to do those things in that proper order to actually make sure you're following what the law says. When it comes to the employer and manager responsibility, notaries are officers of the state, not just employees of the bank. Employers must provide the environment and support for the notary to uphold the law. They should, but many of them, again, are not because they don't know what they don't know because they haven't went through the class to become a notary themselves. They just know that it would be convenient to have someone on our staff that can notarize documents when it's necessary. And that's all they think of, okay? The cluelessness is not a defense for failure to perform duties, especially again when you have as a notary the manual that you should always be able to refer to, no matter what capacity you're using your commission at. So again, the goal is for you to understand what is asked of you, what is expected of you, and you doing your due diligence to make sure you're not making these types of errors that again I'm hearing about. The consequences of compliance failure. Failure to administer a required oath leads to improper notarization, and the risk is great. It invalidates documents and increase vulnerability to fraud. And then the reputation loss for you as a notary and the institution. It makes us look like we don't know what we're doing. And a lot of people, when they have a bad experience, they group everybody, usually in that category of, I don't want to go to a notary because she just messed up all of my paperwork. And again, to have someone have that experience is not good. Not everyone knows what they should know, but they should know what they're supposed to know in this position. And if you don't know, don't do anything because it's best for you to turn someone away because, again, you don't know if you're doing the right thing versus doing something and it may be incorrect also. So, again, I'd rather you turn someone away and send them or call another notary that may be a little bit more experienced so they can actually still help the customer. And you just again put yourself in a position of studying your manual a little bit more. So that can help you know what you're not well versed in and what you need to focus on. Looking through the table of contents, finding what you feel that you might need to really work on more. This benefits you and the public office. All right. So again, do yourself a favor as well as the community when it comes to just taking time to better yourself when it comes to understanding the information we're supposed to know. So when it comes to always be learning, that is the encouragement that I always bring to the community is always find ways to learn more about what it is that you should know as a notary public. We have so many opportunities that can be open to us just by being commissioned. These are opportunities that don't always require something to be notarized. But as you have seen, there's so many things that notaries that if we know there's something that's not right and we identify it, please talk to the notary and let them know. I noticed that you did this, but did you know that based on page whatever in the manual or general statutes, this, and this, where you can point out what can help them know that it's not something you came up with. It's something that we are following because we're both notaries, and apparently you are not well aware of this part of what we should be able to do or what we should do. So again, hopefully they can receive that information. Don't let pride remove and revoke your commission because again, pride is something that does never do anyone well. Okay. Um, Knowing that someone should be able to correct you if you are wrong can be received as an insult, as if though they're coming for you, but if someone took the time to actually point something out, please don't take it as a derogatory situation. Take it as someone really caring enough to actually point something out for you so you can actually improve and hopefully not have that to be a situation ever again. Okay. That is what, again, my hope is. I have notaries that can actually share with me about something that I need to change or correct. And again, I take it for what it is. Someone's looking out for me. There's times where I'm like, oh, good Lord, I made that mistake. Gracious. I hope not a lot of people see this. So then I try to make my corrections. But again, it's just a matter of just knowing that others are looking out for you to help better you in that way without it being taken as a demeaning situation. Okay. Um, I would encourage you again to continuously review your 2026 North Carolina Notary Manual. Everyone should have theirs now. June 1st was the due date. If you have ordered yours, then again, it's coming. But yeah, that is something that you must have when you get recommissioned. When it comes to the Secretary of State, knowing that you have the current publication. So again, they're going to have you prove that you purchased the new manual. You're going to have to send a copy of your receipt so they can actually have that to move forward with your paperwork, so you can actually receive an appointment letter to the Register of Deeds to be sworn in for the second time or third time, however many terms you have. That is going to be part of the requirement. I encourage you to seek specialized training. What I cover for notaries is a notary basis accelerated class that actually is 2 days, and it goes over 16 documents. There's additional documents that we have in our workbook slash study guide, but this is something that you won't be able to have in your possession and refer to just like your manual. So again, my goal is very intentional when it comes to focusing on what can help you better yourself and your skills for the general public. At the end of the day, if we're not continuously learning, then we're missing out on a lot of things and we're going to be behind. So do as much as you can to make sure you're on the mailing list for the Secretary of State. So when there are updates for the legislation, you are one of the first to know. Okay, you should not find it out online. The NNA sending information, letting us know what's happening. We should know what's happening in our state before anyone else do. And so the Secretary of State is really good at updating us by sending emails when there's a change, so that we can actually comply and then make sure that we do know where to find the information to follow and keep in our possession to make us better. If you are a notary, you swore an oath, uphold it with integrity. All right, so I'm going to now take it to our floor and see exactly what you guys have to say. So let's have a conversation. I see that Linda, she said that she had an experience with the UPS store. I have too. Linda, can you actually expand on exactly how that went for you? Okay, Linda, you're on mute.
Sorry. Sorry about that. So I was trying to find a notary in my area and I was unable to find one because sometimes notaries need a notary at times.
Yep,
So I went to a UPS store, and when I went to the UPS store and presented my document, and the little girl behind the counter, I showed my ID and all this other stuff, and she was like, "Well, show me where I need to sign as a notary." I said, "Huh?" I was like, "I need to show you where to on the document where you need to sign." She said, "Yeah." So I had to think back in my head. I was like, "So," and I was like, "If I were just a regular person, a regular didn't know notary, how would a layman person would know where a notary's supposed to notarize a document?" So all that went through my head, and she was like, "Well, this is the law. They said that this is you have to show me or where on the certificate where I need to sign." So I point to her and show her where she needed to sign. I was like, "For future references, you do not ask a customer where a notary is supposed to sign because a notary is supposed to know on the certificate where they're supposed to notarize the document." That was so
exactly.
weird to me. That was so weird. I was like, that didn't make sense. So
And I mean, that may be her way of saying, I don't know what I'm doing. And she put it on the, company of why she said it that way. So she won't look like she didn't know what she was doing. And so that's unfortunate. And again, it's no telling how many other people may have gone through an experience. Because what would have happened if there was not a notarial act on that document? Someone wants to still get notarized. You see what I'm saying? And if
mhm.
she says, well, tell me where I need to notarize it, and she's just thinking that she needs to just stamp the document and sign it, once again, that's incorrect. And that is a violation when it comes to notarizing or putting your stamp on anything and not properly notarizing if there's no a notarial certificate. So those are the things that again is concerning. And I appreciate you sharing that, Linda. How long ago was that for you?
That was like a couple of months ago, and I was like, it took me back. So when I teach my class, I tell my class never ask. principle where you need to sign, because that's your job. You're supposed to know where you're supposed to notarize the document, certificate.
Exactly. And again, at least they're getting it from you from the beginning so they can actually hopefully again make sure they're putting that into action when they themselves are notarizing a document for someone.
Right.
But yeah, it's just things like that is concerning.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
no
Um,
problem.
all right. So Miss Vicky, you got a few things up here. Can you just actually speak on those?
The first one is um, you have a document that has a title says affidavit for blah 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 blah, and then when you get down to the notarial certificate, it specifically says I am acknowledging person appeared before me. It was all the acknowledgement wording. Um, the true copy affidavit is that way. Several seller docs are that way, where they have the word affidavit in the title, but the certificate does not say signed and sworn or and signed or anything in it. So what do you do in a case like that when it does not say sworn in the notarial certificate?
So we go by the notarial certificate. There are a lot of documents that you just mentioned that does have that confusion if we're reading the information based on where the signer signs their name. They themselves are saying that they are swearing this information, but we're not putting them under oath because their certificate doesn't tell us to do that. So when it comes to whoever presented that document to them, they're responsible for making sure everything is correct on that paperwork. And so we go by exactly what the Notarial Act is saying when it comes to is it an acknowledgement or is it a sworn statement in it itself. And so that is what again can be confusing because you have different people drafting these documents, and it's unfortunate that they are again not making it be in alignment. But because we are not a attorney, we cannot practice law by saying, oh, well, this should be a sworn statement. You see what I'm saying? So we are limited to the correction. And if they want us to notarize a document, we're going to notarize it as the acknowledgement that is on the notarial certificate. If it's something that's kicked back later, again, it's not on the notary, it's on the company or whomever drafted the document for the signer. Again, it's unfortunate, but that's usually what's happening. I've even heard where you have made mention that when you was working with attorneys, they're actually advising their paralegals to just notarize a document without going through the former protocol of putting someone under oath for a jurat. And that is awful. Again, a lot of people are looking up to an attorney to know exactly what they should be doing in a situation for notarizing a document. Well, just to share with you, it's not against the bar association, but they don't teach the statutes for notaries when a person is going through the attorney or again going to get their law degree. And so that to me again is definitely very is unhelp it's not helpful to an attorney that wants to become a notary where they themselves waive going to the class. And I feel that attorneys that really want to do things correctly, they would take the time to take the 8 hours to actually go through a class to get more information. Because if they have never covered any of the section, what do they really know? All they know is, oh, they themselves swore unto an oath to take office as an attorney. But again, it is not enough if they really don't know the law for notaries, where they should know the general statutes or they have access to all of the statutes. And again, based on the fact that they said they want to be an attorney, I mean, excuse me, they wanted to be a notary as an attorney as well. That's their responsibility to really want to know as much as they should know to help anyone that's paying them high dollar in most cases to actually help them in whatever their legal affairs are. So that again, that's my opinion. Jacqueline, you have using Linda's example, how in the world are UPS staff passing a notary class? Once again, the notary class, when it comes to an instructor going over the material, they're going to emphasize what you need to pay attention to for the test. People many times have short memory. And so if you're doing something right then and there and the information is coming to you, you don't have an open book. You have to actually not have the book as a reference when you take the test. You got to go on the memory for that 8 hour period of what has been covered more than once. Sometimes if people are really paying attention, have studied the book before the class, they are now having a second introduction to it that's now helping them subconsciously remember information that they've already scanned through or read, but it's making it help, or it's helping them understand it more because now they got someone that can actually break it down to them maybe in a different way than what they read. So that again is not the concern of can I pass the class. It's all about after the class itself, passing the test, really studying. So again, you have to study after the test. And I know it sounds backwards from how things were or are while you're in school or furthering your education, but that is how it is in a lot of professions. The same as life insurance agents, they go through a series of studying information to pass an exam, but the real work comes after the fact, when it comes to actual scenarios that's happening versus what they're reading. So you don't know how to apply a lot of the information until you're going through the experience that it can be beneficial to use it. And again, it is concerning. It's happening a lot. Okay. And again, it seems like it's spreading more and more when you have notaries that become notaries for all the wrong reasons. And so that again has a lot to do with their understanding of what they should know very well before they actually take the class to pass it.
Well, my question was kind of facetious.
Oh,
But I understand. I definitely understand what you're saying. Um, I personally did not just become a notary to not understand what I'm doing. I need to know what I'm doing because I cannot be charged with no fines and felonies, none of that, I love
right.
orange, but I don't want to be in a jumpsuit. I want to know what I'm doing. I need to know what I'm doing. And like you said, your reputation is on the line. Um,
Yeah.
and people's livelihood, people are trusting you to know what you're doing. So, that question was just like I said, facetious. Um, because
Okay.
I've gone into several UPS stores and you wonder, you know, is this common for this particular business? Because like I said, I've gone in several and they just notarize. I've been in where I've seen them just nobody's under oath. People walk in, they just like, okay, and walk out. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do have people who, again, they just want to get it done. They think they know what is required, but they don't know. And so when we're trying to tell them, well, it's nothing personal, I'm just trying to do my job, they think that many times we're just actually giving them a hard time. And again, it's all about them hopefully can respect and appreciate us protecting them when it comes to what we do collectively. And so you're going to not be able to satisfy everybody that is asking you for your services because of lack of understanding and knowledge at the same time. And again, it's just different personality types with the conflicts that you're going to come across just because people are people and we can't control anything other than how we handle a situation. So as long as you hold your composure, make sure you can refer back to the law, then that is something that's going to always give you the support that you need in any situation where it can become a heated situation. So it's the goal is to always make sure you know where to go to get the information to validate what it is that you can and cannot do. Dave, you can actually speak. I see that you do have some things in the comments.
Hi. There's actually 3 out of 6 of the documents that they show in the SOS website on authentications form, sample
Hmm.
docs. In the body of the document, it says that the principal is swearing or affirming. but the certificate that they have is an acknowledgement. And one example, which we've talked about before, is the True Copy affidavit form. And it starts out by saying, I, insert name of documents signer, do hereby swear or affirm that the statements I make below are true. But the notary certificate is an acknowledgement. Would you administer an oath or affirmation to the principal? And if you would you edit or replace the certificate to make it a jurat certificate?
So this it goes back to what we can do when it comes to unauthorized practice of law. Um, and that is something I will clarify with Ozzy just so I can make sure that the information we're covering can be again correct. And so I only go by what the notarial certificate says. If it's clearly saying it's an acknowledgement, as I shared with Miss Vicky, that's what I'm going to administer, or better yet, that's what I'm going to actually conclude is an acknowledgement certificate, because being not been an attorney where they can say, oh, this need to actually be drafted differently. You know, that to me should be something that can be caught on the other end before it gets to us as a notary to notarize the document. Now, on that same note, we can actually make sure the notarial certificate is correct when it comes to the venue, which is the state and county that we're in, as well as who personally appeared before us. If the verbiage is not correct, we have the ability to um, correct any errors that we see on the actual certificate, but it's not for us to change the certificate from an acknowledgement to a jurat when it comes to what may be said in the context of the document. Again, that would be us practicing law in that degree. But when it comes to what we do have the autonomy to correct, will be the certificate itself in the acknowledgement form or the jurat state, where we can actually again add or subtract anything that needs to be corrected, because that's something that we do have control over. Did I answer your question?
Uh, I totally understand your answer. I think that they need to change that form, and also the other two are the single status form and the exhibit certificate. It just seems to me like it's incredibly sloppy. And if someone brought one of those to me and I scanned the document like we're supposed to, and I saw at the
Mm-hmm.
top that it said the principal was swearing or affirming, and I got down to the bottom, my reaction would be there's something wrong. And I'd hate to send someone away when they're bringing in something on a form right off the Secretary of State website. But I think it's very poor form, and maybe they didn't think about what they were doing when they did it, and they should either fix it or explain it. And last time we talked about this was more than a month ago, and I sent an email to the Secretary of State's office and asking about it for the true copy affidavit. And the day later, I got something back saying, oh, the form is on the website here. And I wrote back and said, I know where the form is. I told you where it was, so you knew what I was asking about in my message, and I've never gotten a substantive reply. I would like to read my next question. Also, it's very brief, and I thought of it when Jacqueline was making her comment. How come they never showed a notary coming to the prison as in Orange is the New Black? The lawyers were there all the time. We never see a notary. I think there needs to be some show or series of books where the notary is the hero, and in every episode they pull out the document or they pull out in the journal and say, here it is, I did my job and I prevented fraud and abuse. Case solved. And I think Jacqueline is definitely ready to be one of the stars. Get an
Thank you
agent.
for that, Dave.
Oh, Dave got jokes.
Oh my goodness. It's good to have humor, when we're dealing with some serious subjects, because, we don't want to scare any of you from doing your due diligence. It's all about just having that confidence build within, knowing that you are able to identify what it is that's before you, how to actually respond, to actually move forward with notarizing the document, or declining to actually move forward with a document. We're not obligated to ever notarize anything. Okay, please do remember that. And if we are going to decline a notarization, we can explain why we're not moving forward with it. We can simply say, I don't feel comfortable with moving forward with this. I think an attorney would be better suited for reviewing this with you. And again, you can just leave it simply as that without, again, trying to explain other things that could become an issue where you're trying to share with them that you feel when it comes to sharing your feelings. We have to be very careful with those things because giving an opinion, sharing our feelings, can be used as advice where it can be, again, a problem later. So the goal is to put yourself in a situation where Lord, that is not going to be a situation for you dealing with a signer that you're trying to help, but you don't want to actually hurt yourself in the interim. If you are not really comfortable with moving forward with that transaction, you don't have to. All right, that's really important. Is there any other questions? You can raise your hand. The hand raise feature is at the top. And again, this is an opportunity that if you have questions related to other parts of being a notary, you can take advantage of this time live to get those questions answered, where again, it may not be related to the subject for tonight's topic, but again, other notaries probably are curious to know the answer too. We're going to go with Angela and then Vicky.
Evening, everybody.
Good
I
evening.
wanted to put a situation to you, Belinda, and just get your thoughts on it. Like you just said, we totally have the right to say no to notarizing anything we don't feel comfortable with, or like you said, there's a fear of getting our opinion or our feeling or our professional take on a thing because of what we know, and that can be hard when you have experience in other areas. So we had a situation today. For those of you who don't know, I am a mortgage lender. We got a title search back on someone who paid cash for land, a lot of cash, and they did not use a closing attorney. They only used a notary between the two of them. Now, this is in South Carolina. This is not in North Carolina, so it's not us. But now that it's come back, and of course, the notary doesn't concern themselves with what's on the document. I don't know the situation of if the notary knew them. I know nothing of the intimate details between the notary and the two parties, right? But it came back that there's $30,000 of taxes owed on this property. There are potential tax liens from previous owners. There's 2 open mortgages on it. There's rollback taxes possible because of an agriculture exemption and a cell phone tower lease. Now, that has nothing to do with the notary, okay? So that's not to scare anybody either. But if you were the notary, so here's my question to you. If you were the notary in this case, and maybe you were within earshot that it was a cash situation. My understanding is the seller said they wouldn't accept the cashier's check, but they would take cash. So this very inexperienced buyer went and got $40,000 of cash and did this. If you as a notary was in earshot of anything that I just said, of course, a title search called all that other stuff, what would you do? How would you handle that?
It goes with understanding real estate and other things that surrounds exactly what's taking place. So not all notaries are well versed in real estate or dealings or transactions. So they themselves may just take it for what they see on the notarial certificate before them to move on with the notarization. Me personally, if I am very aware of things that don't seem like it's going to be in the favor of all parties, I will make a conscious decision based on my integrity to not move forward. Because when you're dealing with cash and that kind of cash, you really would probably want to have an attorney somewhere around to make sure that those things can be protected because again you have eager buyers and it's just one of those things where lack of education, lack of knowledge can really put you in a position of later regretting some of the decisions, especially depending on the outcome. So the more you know, that is what I go with when it comes to making decisions of, again, do you have that gut feeling if there's something wrong? If you don't have the experience in real estate or other areas when it comes to notarizing different documents, then you may not have that intuition to say, don't you do that, or something is not right. So I will encourage you to always go by your intuition. Learn as much as you possibly can. Some people are like, oh goodness, I don't want to learn too much, because you don't, sometimes it's not easy to unlearn certain things. But it's also one of those things you cannot, again, I feel, when it comes to your character, your integrity, where you have to say, okay, I don't feel comfortable with doing this. And then suggestion that they may need to talk to an attorney to make sure that everything is going to be done correctly, because this is a big financial investment that I feel would probably help them if they do have someone that can give them advice that I cannot give, other than to advise them to talk to an attorney. So that would be how I would have handled that myself personally. We're going to have Jacqueline, Vicky, and then Miss Candace.
Okay, Belinda, using the example you just discussed. So if you hold dual titles, you're a real estate agent and a notary, but
Okay.
you're there to notarize the document. But as a real estate agent, you understand that what you're witnessing might not be the best way to handle that situation. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm there as a notary, but I'm also a licensed real estate agent as well, how can I best handle that situation? Because I'm wearing two hats now. I'm the notary, but I'm also the real estate agent. That
Are you the real
can
estate agent on that transaction?
That's true. That's true. Very good. Very good. Because
So
they
what
Correct.
I
if
just
they
said,
had an agent, the agent dropped the ball.
right.
If they had
So
an
again,
agent,
it's all about what you know. Again, you may see something that's happening with estate documents. You may be someone that actually works with a lot of an estate when it comes to trust documents, and you're well versed in that with your profession as a paralegal. Now, you may not have been working on those documents in your office, but someone may know that you're a notary and they're asking you to notarize the documents because you're a notary. And if you're a paralegal and understand certain things on the level of, this signer probably should have someone cover these things with them, because it doesn't seem like they are aware of what they're actually signing. Again, this is your personal opinion, but with your opinion, if you don't feel that, again, moving forward is going to be in the best interest of that person, if again you're trying to serve and protect, prevent fraud and forgery, then that decision is easily to be made when it comes to you really saying that you're looking out for their best interest. You can tell them, again, I don't feel comfortable with moving forward with this. I think that you probably will benefit with talking to an attorney, getting a consult, just to make sure that any questions you have, getting clarity, you can actually gain that from someone that can actually give you that advice that unfortunately I cannot, in a position that's been a notary public. And so, again, it's all about experience levels and getting the education to understand, to extend how you're going to protect someone in different scenarios. Okay. So, again, other notaries will just move forward because they are not well versed in this other area of real estate, life insurance, and etc. So it's all about you actually understanding what you have the comfort of moving forward, and not having something on your conscience afterwards. Because if you start feeling that guilty feeling, it's a reason. So again, we aren't supposed to attach ourselves, because we're supposed to be impartial, right? And so if you feel like you can't be impartial, then again, that's another sign that you don't need to move forward with that transaction. I'm gonna have Miss Vicky and then Candace.
I'm just going to be the oddball here, and I know we discussed this earlier. I'm the oddball that when you get a set of documents, like you have like 4 documents from the same person, I do 4 journal entries. And I was thinking, that I check on the journal that I have done an oath or not. And if you have a mixture of documents where 2 are acknowledgements and 2 are sworn, if you use one of those generic journals where you can say, I did 5 documents and here's the signature one, you can't tell necessarily. I don't know how other journals look. If you gave an oath on 1 and 3, but not 2 and 4 because it didn't need it. So that's why I'm the oddball who actually does single journal entries for like estate documents, and I've done seller documents, and both of those have been a mixture of acknowledgements and duress. I don't know if those generic loan signing documents that you check off the documents that you're going to be doing have a checkbox on each document for sworn or not. And I never seen one, so I can't answer.
Okay, so that's a good point that you brought. Now, when it comes to our journals, again, we have different types of versions of our notary journal. The goal is for us to record exactly what happened. So, if you have various documents in any packet of paperwork for a signer, it is our responsibility to identify how many acknowledgments was it that you notarized, how many directs did you notarize, which documents were directs versus acknowledgments. It makes it easier because most documents that have several notarial acts, from what I've experienced, has more acknowledgments than directs. So I make it easier by actually identifying what documents are under the direct column. Everything else is going to be acknowledgments. So again, you want to make sure that you're recording in your journal what happened. It tells a story. And if you can start thinking about it in that way, then this will help you be more detailed when how you take your notes, as well as making sure you're getting the signatures of your signers. Ms. Vicky also is very good at making sure every journal entry still has a signature for the signer. Now, I don't put them through all of those things, okay? Because once I can capture the signature, that's my verification. This person was before me when it came to actually notarizing the documents. My proof of what took place is that I met this person at this time on this date. We began the transactions at this time. The last one was done at this time. So there's a beginning, there's an end. And then when it comes to what documents were a notarial act, those are again recorded in my journal because anyone, when it comes to if I have to go to court, if I have my journal subpoenaed, then it's going to tell the story of again who was before me, their identification number, their signature, and then of course what documents I actually notarized and what type of notarial act was it. So again, those are the things that I hope you can now gather when it comes to the importance of having a journal, is to record what took place, that if someone else was to read it, will actually know the story of what happened when you were there to notarize the documents. Okay. I have Candace, will be the last person because it's now at 7:28. I want to make sure that we wrap up around 7:30. Yes, Candace.
Okay, back to the scenario with the cash buyer.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's not on the notary, but if a notary has never even purchased their own home, they would have
Yeah,
nothing to compare it to.
right.
They wouldn't know that the whole scenario just smelled bad.
And that's what I'm saying. Lack of knowledge. Their experience level. They may not have done any of that. So again, it's not on the notary at the end of the day.
Right. But if something doesn't pass the smell test, you gotta decline.
Work with that gut. Yes, please do say, because all notarizations are not good notarizations, just like all money is not good money. So you can apply that same principle to almost everything. And I did see Andrea raise your hand, so let me get you right quick. I know we got two in the audience. So did you have a question that you wanted to pose? I just want to make sure that I did acknowledge you. All right. So Dave, go ahead with yours.
This is a question that Vicky raised in a sidebar conversation we had during your session last Wednesday night that I think is a really good question. And the question is, why does the entire text of the notary certificate need to be on the same page of a document and not split between two different pages? And it was hard to find the answer because it's not explicitly stated in the statute and it's not explicitly stated in the old or new manual.
Well, I think the best way to possibly answer that is that in order for you to have a completed notary certificate, it should be on a single space, versus where you have a separation. That means it's not a completed notarial act. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, the reason I found, and it was explained very well in a 2-year-old post on the Secretary of State Notaries website by Troy Mitchell, who was a frequent commenter, and his information
Hmm.
is always very good, is that in 10B 36B, it says that the notary's signature and seal must be on the same page as the text of the certificate. And that's been interpreted to say that the entirety of the certificate has to be on the same page, because if it's split onto 2 pages, then the notary would have to stamp twice. And the notary doesn't stamp twice, they only stamp once. And the thing about the signature, actually about the seal being with the certificate, is explained in the new manual, where it talks about seal. But in the chapter that talks about certificates, they don't even have any general information at the beginning, and they don't say that the entirety of the certificate has to be on the same page, which would have been a very nice addition. In the old manual, they have some general language in the chapter that talks about certificates, but they didn't make this statement in there either. So it's sort of something that's derived from the statute, but it's not explicitly stated.
And thank you for that, Dave. So this is another benefit of having these Tuesday Notary tune-ups, where we can discuss things that may not be as clear, or again, mentioned in our manuals to reference. They do the best they can to cover as much as they possibly can for us, but you do have various different situations that come about that are very unique. And again, to the credit of the Secretary of State staff, they put a lot of time into trying to make sure they're extracting information from the general statutes, because again, that's through on the legislation level, and they're actually creating a manual that's really talking the same language as the legislation, but is broken down in some layman terms when it comes to how we can receive and understand information. If you are not an attorney or a paralegal with any type of law degree, it's not easy to read anything that has a lot of legalese in it. So to have this manual, and we can actually again break down that information, which we're doing every Wednesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. This is something that can help when it comes to just having a conversation. Some things that seem to not be as clear, but as long as we understand this is part of the process of doing things right, even when we don't have a definitive answer, we just want to make sure that we can actually apply what we do know is best practice in what we're doing, to make sure there's nothing rejected when we notarize a document. So I do appreciate all the input that everyone has been able to share. I do have a few asks of you guys when it comes to just being able to support what the group has formed to be. We have over 2,100 members now. This is a group when it comes to the Confident Notaries in North Carolina. I would love for the subscriptions to the YouTube channel to get to that same level of subscriptions, because that helps with spreading the word to other notaries that don't know that there is additional assistance to support them. And so the more that we collectively can actually share information, would better, because as you know, this is free information. This is again your time that you have committed to being here. All right. And again, your time is about an hour. Mine has been about 3 times as much of me actually preparing the material. This is something I am passionate about, is educating other notaries. So we can have, again, a department of notaries that are well versed in doing exactly what the community relies on us to do. Okay. So I appreciate you guys being able to, again, being a part of this beautiful opportunity of community, where, again, we want to support one another as much as possible. We do have some attorneys that are in the group. And so, again, we have people of all different types of professions, that the common denominator has been a notary public. So, again, knowing that we have that connection is very, very important when it comes to sharing our stories, being able to, again, collaborate and supporting one another. We all need that. So, I would love for you guys to, again, all subscribe to the NC Notary Coach. These replays of our Tuesday Notary Tune-Ups are found there. So if you missed part of it, you can always catch up with exactly what is happening. I try to actually do a recap in our Facebook group so that you can have some information if you're one that likes to read. But if you really want to watch, then you have the opportunity as well. If you're wanting to further your education in notary, again, there's no such thing as continuing education as far as credits as a notary public, because once you're commissioned, you just need to maintain your commission for the 5-year term and then recommission by passing the test and going through that same process all over again. But to actually better yourself when it comes to how you can become an excellent notary, these are classes that I actually teach through my program. And this is a website that you can go to see all of the trainings that you have access to, down to specialized coaching and mentorship that is not on this particular page, but you can go to the NC Notary Coach, Belinda.com, and you'll be able to see one-on-one opportunities where we can actually have a consultation. We can have the mentorship or coaching sessions for just you. Again, you may not feel comfortable with asking certain questions on this platform. Been there, done that. But again, it's all about growth and knowing that if you really want to know something, take the opportunities to gain the information as soon as you can. When we get out tonight, there's going to be a pop-up that says, do you want to actually give a recording of a testimonial? So this helps me know exactly how these Tuesday Notary Tune-Ups are helping you collectively. So again, it's a win-win situation where I can know what else I might need to actually help you guys with, things that you can bring to my attention that I can actually, again, implement. I've had a lot of those things happening, so I appreciate you for those of you that has been able to share your ideas and just, again, been able to know that we are working this together. So I have over a year worth of content. I mean, that's going to carry through every year just because this is something I do all the time. And it's something that I enjoy doing. So again, to each his own, but the goal is to make sure that you have exactly what you're needing. And if you need something additional, then there's an investment in that when it comes to compensation. So right now you only have to pay attention to what's been covered so you can actually benefit from it. But if you do any of the trainings, then you have to pay money so you can actually, again, elevate your understanding, your access to the information so you can still have growth opportunities. So again, it's all about making sure that you can be the best notary public as you possibly can for yourself to be able to be the one for your customers. So if you're on tonight, again, please do subscribe to my channel. This, again, can actually help make sure others are able to see what's happening in the world of notarizations. And again, subscribing, liking, and sharing. This is all about community, helping other notaries know that they have a place that is going to support their endeavors. All right. So again, I hope for those of you that can join me on Wednesday Wisdom, the learning sessions for going over the 2026 manual. We'll be covering definitions for chapter 5 and 6, going in, again, the breakdown of what these words mean. And this can help you when it comes to, again, understanding how to have conversations with other notaries, with attorneys, with other professions that you want to work with as a notary. And again, we'll keep moving forward. We're dissecting each of the chapters that's for traditional notaries going forward. And eventually, all of the sessions will be on the course platform for those that want to actually do just self pace with your membership. All right. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing you guys tomorrow night and next week. So again, tune in to Tuesday Notary Tune Up. Have it on your calendar, create your notifications if you're not on Facebook a lot, so that way you can have those reminders. So I hope you guys have a good night.